We're absolutely delighted to be meeting you, and we're welcoming you to a course called Introduction to Entrepreneurship, which London Metropolitan University are running, and we're running it as part of the British Council's Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge, which is a competition that's open to all of the participants that are taking part in Creative Spark. Should we have the next slide, Sandra? So during today's session, we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to give you a bit of an overview of the course, and we're going to also tell you a bit about the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge. We're going to have an activity that we'll describe, or we'll talk about some activities that you might do, and we're going to have some polls. We've already done one poll, and I think some of the people who have just joined might have missed it, but we asked people whether they were already or had already participated in the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge. And we learned that the majority of people who are with us, and it's about 90 people, the majority of people are part of the Big Idea Challenge program. So we're going to run some more polls just to keep you on your toes, ask you some questions and test you out a bit, and see about your knowledge of entrepreneurship. And we're going to talk a bit about ideation in theory and putting it into practice. And then we'll also show you how you can use our course MOOC, where we're going to be conducting the activity between sessions that we run over the course of the next 5 weeks. And then at the end, there'll be a chance for questions. And we expect this session to run for about 45 minutes. Should we have the next slide, Sandra? So that's us. I've actually turned my camera off because I think maybe it will help with the speed at which you're able to see and hear what we're saying. And I just wanted to say that as we get going with this, it's really nice that you're introducing yourselves. If you haven't seen this before, if you click on the little pink button with 2 white chevrons on it in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can access the chat window. And you really are welcome to ask us any questions as we go along. And you'll see as well that at the bottom of the screen, there's a little picture of a person with their hand up. So if you click on that, you can raise your hand, and that's a good way of drawing to our attention the fact that you've posted a question in the chat window. And just to say that I'm Chris Lane. I'm a head of department at London Metropolitan University, and I've got a particular interest in social entrepreneurship. And I've been involved with the British Council for the last 5 years, particularly working on entrepreneurship education in Uzbekistan. Sandra.
Yes, I've been working with Chris since last year on the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge. I project managed the competition, and I have myself worked on building a business around insect-based snack foods. I did not launch it in the end because it was a very special one, but I've been through the process of creating an idea and creating a business around it. So I'm very happy to see what all of you will come up with during these amazing sessions.
And Sandra, you were also involved in leading and managing the delivery of our Big Idea Challenge competition last year, where we had something like 400 teams participating, and in the latter stages of the competition, 40,000 members of the public were engaged in voting for the ideas that they thought were best. So let's have the next slide. So I thought it would be worth saying something about how we learn.
Chris, I think you are cutting off a little bit.
Okay.
Sorry, you're back now.
Okay. Tell me if that happens again, Sandra, and
I will let you know.
maybe
No problem.
you can take the slides maybe if necessary. So first and foremost, we want this to be fun. It's not a conventional university course, and we're not assessing you in the normal way. And we hope that it will just provide you with information that will be useful for you as you go on your entrepreneurship journey. We're going to be running these online live video and audio sessions, and you can access us by typing into the chat window. Every Friday between today and the 22nd, sorry, of May, we are going to be offering these lectures, and they are at 10 a.m. GMT +1. We're going to record the previous sessions. We're recording this session now, so you'll be able to access everything that took place over the course of the session that we run. And we're also going to transcribe the sessions so that you can, if you can't access over video and audio, you'll at least be able to read what we're saying. We're going to run polls. We're going to have optional activities that you can engage with between each of the weekly sessions, and there's a discussion forum which we're going to show you at the end, so that you can understand how you can send us material and share material with each other. And I think a really key part of the course is that we want you to be interacting with each other. We also expect to be creating a growing bank of resources as we move forward with this, and you'll be able to access those through the course site. Should we have the next slide, Sandra?
Yes.
I can see that a few people are saying that they're having some connection problems. I think it sounds as if, Sandra, you can hear me okay. Am I right?
I can hear you okay, yes. And if anyone has issues with the connection, try and maybe move around the house to find a better connection, or you'll be able again to access the recording of this session.
And if you have, one of the things just to highlight as well, people who arrived late, is to say that we haven't turned on your microphones or your video, and that helps to keep the bandwidth clear, and it means that we're wanting you to interact through the chat window. I can also see that some people are saying that some participants are having difficulty joining. I'm going to say that we've got 107 people who have joined so far. So I think we'll try and investigate what might have happened for people who are having difficulty. But for now, it seems as if at least there are quite a number of people who managed to connect successfully. Okay, so Sandra, do you want to just take us through the schedule?
Yes, sure. So just the schedule of the Introduction to Entrepreneurship course. We're going to have an ideation session today. We are going to have a session about the problem next Friday. On the 8th of May, we will talk about customer development and how to learn from your customers. On the 15th of May, it will be the very exciting session about how to create your pitch and some tips on how to pitch in an effective manner. And the last session on the 22nd of May will be an open question and answer session with some real-world entrepreneurs, where the audience can ask questions about what you've wanted to know about the entrepreneur life.
Fantastic. Let's have.
Great. Should we skip this poll, Chris? I'm just a bit conscious of time. We've had it already. Okay. We are going to have another poll that. Chris, are you setting this? Should I do it?
Yeah. Do you want to have a go? Actually, I know I can do it, Sandra. That's fine. Bear with me. Okay. So everybody, we're going to run a poll in just a second. You'll see it appearing on the screen, and we're going to be asking you some questions about who you are. But just bear with us for just a moment. Sandra, I think there are some questions that have come in. Do you want to see if you can answer them while I'm setting up the poll?
Okay, I can see connection comments mainly. I think we are pretty much good with questions.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start the poll. So could you tell us which of the following you are, please? And we'll release the results in a minute. So you can't see how people are responding right at this moment, but I'll show the responses now. So I think you can see all of those. So it's really nice to see that approximately, I would say 90% of the people who are here are students, and we've got a large number of academics, but it's also important that we recognise that the people who are involved in this programme are also existing entrepreneurs. They could be people who are expert business people already, maybe acting in mentoring capacities as part of the Creative Spark programme, and we've got some people who are identifying themselves as in another category. So it would be really nice if the people who didn't feel that they fitted into either category 1, 2, 3 or 4, if you could tell us what your role is if you're another person. Perhaps you're a member of staff at the British Council, or you have some other role. So let us know. It would be nice to see that.
All right, let's get going. Here we go.
So just a little bit about who we think you are. Oh, and actually, Sandra, you know, somebody said they not just hear me, so I put myself back on video for a while. Let me know if that has any impact on the sound.
Yeah.
So the course is for people primarily who are eligible for entering the British Council's Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge. You could be at any stage in the process of developing your business idea. So although today's session is primarily about ideation, we really are happy to have you involved at any stage. And we'll explain a bit more later in the session about why ideation is important for whichever stage you're at. And as we've already seen, you could be a student, a lecturer, a business person. You know, this is all about creativity as well. So you could be someone who's working in the creative industries as an artist. You may just be connected with the British Council in some way in their work in the Balkans, the Caucasus, and Central Asia, or just somebody maybe from outside of that area who's managed to get the link to the course somehow, and you'd benefit from learning about entrepreneurship. I should just say that for each of these live sessions, we have a limit of 500 people who can participate. But in fact, I think we have unlimited numbers in the course itself, so people can register on the course website in any numbers. And just to say that if you're not sure about eligibility for the Big Idea Challenge competition, Sandra will be able to discuss that in the discussion forum outside of these live sessions. Let's have the next slide.
All right, so if you are joining these sessions because you want to take part in the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge, fantastic, you are in the right spot, and you will definitely get something out of this course to make you ready for the competition and ready to prepare your video pitch. Because as you know, the main thing that is important is in this competition is your video pitch. So you will record yourself pitching for 1 minute, and we really want you to put some effort in the pitch, because if you are chosen as one of the 9 country finalists, you will end up on our website. So you can see on screen now, these are some of last year's finalists, and this is public and it goes out everywhere. So we want your videos to be good and to put some effort into your pitching. And if you get 1 round further than this, you could become a country champion or even an overall winner of the competition. Last year, this is the Pipilo group from the Ukraine who won the competition, and they took part in an amazing award night and also won some amazing prizes. I'm not going to go into details now. If you're interested about learning more, please head over to our website, which is on screen now. And there's also an email address where you can send questions. So please get in touch and get involved.
And Sandra, just to say as well, that link is available through the course on Blackboard, which is the platform we're using for connecting with you.
Exactly. So we're going to start another little activity now, which Chris, I'm going to set up. Just one moment until this comes up on screen.
So this is the little question to test your background knowledge.
Exactly.
For entrepreneurs.
Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay, so you should have it on screen now. What we would like to know from you is, what do you think, what's the percentage of startups that fail? Okay, great. We're getting lots of responses here. There's the 3 options on screen that you can choose from. I saw some people are writing it in the chat. Please do pick one in the poll.
You just have to click on the number, I think, in order to vote, or on the percentage.
Okay, let's give it just a couple of more seconds. All right, I'm going to show the responses now. So most of you said 90%. And in fact, that is the correct answer.
I've closed the poll, Sandra, while I'm trying to...
Oh, perfect. And now we also want you to think about, well, this 90% of startups that fail. Why do they actually fail? And we've got those 4 options underneath as well. And I'm just going to create a poll again.
I think one of the things we'd say about this is we ask this question because on one hand it feels a little bit disappointing to hear that 90% of startups fail. But I think one of the purposes of our course is to help you to work out why that might be, because actually it's not necessary for startups to fail at quite the rate that they do. One of the arguments that's made is that actually it's a lack of education about entrepreneurship and about the reasons why startups fail that causes them to do so.
Oh, sorry, yes, I wrote the same thing twice. Oh, well.
We've got oh, okay.
Okay, let's, just a couple of more seconds. Okay, I'm going to show responses. So most of you said no one wanted the product. And that is indeed the correct answer.
Although actually, Sandra, I'm going to say that if you add together 1 and 2, that comes to 27 as well.
Right. But just for you to understand, actually many pointed out in the chat as well that all of these could be answers, and that is in fact correct. So these are the 4 most common reasons for failure for startup. But the most, or the biggest one, is actually nobody wanted the product. And so it's very important as a learning for you to keep in mind as future entrepreneurs that a product needs to be something that people want. So there's no point in being a great company making a product that nobody wants, because you're not going to be successful.
And Sandra, can I add something?
I think we should, Chris, keep moving a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
All right, let's go. We've got 20 minutes left.
Okie dokie. So I think it's worth thinking about why entrepreneurship is deemed to be so important and why the British Council highlighted it as something to be focused on within Creative Spark. And this is, I think, significantly because innovation is strongly associated with creating economic sustainability, which is something that all countries need to do now more than ever. The creative industries also have absolutely amazing potential to improve employment for young people. And both of these are real areas of strength for the UK. So I think the British Council really wanted to bring the expertise from the UK to a wider audience. But I think it's also worth saying that now, at this particular moment, this very difficult period that we're in the world, as we deal with the coronavirus pandemic, that actually many people are arguing that startups and innovation-led businesses will be the key to recovery. Can you move us to the next slide, Sandra? And I think just to underscore the point about creativity. So this is one of the country winners from last year's competition from Kyrgyzstan. And this is somebody who created a children's book and was responsible for all of the illustrations. So very much something part of the creative industries. So small business and another creative business, this time from Georgia. This is Naili and Tengo, and they are showing their soaps, which were part of a storytelling project for children and part of a kind of public health campaign. So there was a social purpose, but also very much a creative industries basis for their project. Next slide, please. And just to highlight again, you know, Britain leads Europe on almost every measure. More than 10 billion was invested in UK tech businesses last year, and the sector employs 3 million people. So it's a really important part of the economy. And this is somebody who was writing in the Financial Times recently, who said that these are the businesses that we need to help us get out of the current crisis. So it's important now more than ever. Next slide, please.
I'm going to skip this, Chris. I don't think we've got the time to really look into it.
Sure. Okay, go ahead. So just to say something about ideation in theory. So we're going to do a little bit of a lecture on what this might mean, and I think it might help you to think about how you prepare to create your ideas. And we're going to say something about design thinking, creativity, teams and methods. Next slide, please, Sandra. So in terms of design thinking, there's a thought that ideation sits within a cycle that starts with the idea of having empathy, which might be to do with you as an individual, maybe wanting the product that you've come up with the idea for. So you have an empathy with a potential customer because maybe you are the customer for your own product. You also need to then define what the problem is and then start brainstorming for different approaches to solving the problem that you've created or that you've identified. The next step is of the design process, finding some kind of, often at the early stages, very, very simple prototype that you can use to test the idea, then test it. And then if we go to the next slide, please, Sandra. I think the key message here is that this is a cycle. So we might say that it starts with empathy or creating empathy and defining a problem, ideating, prototyping and testing. But then the results of that need to be fed back into the process. So actually ideation isn't just something that you do at the beginning of the process, but it gets repeated as you work your way through. Next slide, please. And I think another characteristic of the design thinking concept is that you start with creating as many choices as possible. Designers would say that they're more likely to create a successful product the more ideas they have at the beginning. But then, of course, in the later stages of the development of an idea, there has to be a process of making choices and narrowing things down until you converge on the point of the product that you're actually going to create. Next slide, please. And I think ultimately what is intended is that through this process, we find something that is desirable. So there has to be a concept of desirability, something that a customer would actually want inherent in the design solution that's created. It has to be feasible. It has to actually be possible to make the thing. And in terms of viability, there has to be something that makes it sustainable in business terms. So there has to be a business model in which some kind of resource can be acquired that can help the product to maintain its place and presence and offer to the customer. Next slide, please. So I think we also need to think about creativity, because at the heart of the ideation process is unleashing the power of the human mind. And I think that, one of the things that human beings are amazing at doing is making unexpected connections. One of the things that many creative people or artists would highlight in their process of producing ideas is that they often come across ideas by putting the right ingredients in place, but then putting combinations together almost by chance and finding that as a result of some kind of coincidence, they arrive at a solution that could never have been thought of through a conventional logical thought process. So I think the creative process is one that is all about removing fixed boundaries and thinking in unusual ways. And Sandra's going to say more about this in a moment. I think the environment is important as well. Many people would say that they have their best ideas in the bath or in the shower. And I think that's something important to say. Moving on to talking about teams. Teams are incredibly important. And I think teams give people diversity. Teams give businesses diversity. They allow a business to put themselves in the shoes of a number of different customer characteristics. So I think it's really important, if you can, as you're thinking about entering the competition, that you create a team that is diverse, has individual strengths and weaknesses, and is able to create multiple perspectives and viewpoints, and where the people who are the members of the team can be friends with each other, but also really critical of each other as well. And one of the things that would be said about the importance of teams in successful startups, and if you want to bring down that percentage of startup failures, is that it's really important to have members of the team who are actually capable of delivering the program and delivering the project. So it could be that if you have a tech business that you're envisaging, that you have a programmer, a business analyst, and an artist and marketeer, and those would together be people who could actually put together the finished product. Next slide, please, Sandra. And in terms of methods, Sandra's going to focus on one particular method in a moment, but there are a lot of people who are blogging at the moment to propose good methods for online ideation, where you can come up with ideas even if people aren't in the same room. And there are a whole set of examples here. And actually, if you look to the end of the slides, which we'll post at the end of the lecture, you'll find that there are, I think, 15 from D. Mansfield, where they are proposing particular methods that you could use, and also online team building tools as well. And I think that that's really important to start to build a rapport between the people who are working together, and having fun together as a team is really important. And of course, this is becoming more and more important at the moment as people are learning to work together in remote locations, less retain a team spirit. Next slide, please, Sandra.
All right, so we've now talked about ideation in theory a little bit, and the theory where it falls into. We're going to look at how to put ideation into practice now. First of all, there are a few things that should be considered when we want to ideate and generate some ideas. So first of all, we should really have lots of ideas. In a few million ideas, there's probably just a couple that are really successful and that are very good ideas. So the more we have, the better it is. The environment where we ideate should be one where there is no judgment and no crushing. So there's no bad ideas. At this stage of the process, we're just throwing out as many ideas as possible. And be encouraging. So even when we discuss ideas with other people, we're not putting them down, we're not being negative. We want encouragement, and we really want to have as many ideas as possible in the process. And the more unusual these ideas are, the better it is. We're really thinking outside the box, we're being creative, we're thinking of things that might not be possible, but who knows? So we're now going to...
Sandra, have we, can I just check, I think I've lost your slides. Can you still see your slides on the screen?
Yes, I can see. So can everyone see the slides? Can you confirm in the chat? Perfect, yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So we're now going to walk you through one of the frameworks that can be used when doing some ideation, and this is a four-part ideation exercise. So the first thing that we want to consider when we start ideating is a group of people or a group of customers. And when you do this, you want to be very specific. So we don't want to just say millennials. We don't want to just say baby boomers. We want to be as specific as possible. So think about, for example, let's say waiters or students that work as waiters on the weekend part-time. Let's think about journalists that are freelancers that maybe work for big national TV channels. Or let's think about lawyers that mainly work with sports contracts. So we should be very specific when we think about groups of people, because these people have the same habits, the same lifestyles most likely, and therefore also the same problems. This moves us onto number 2, so the problem they have. Think about the group of people that you've chosen and think about what problems do they have in their private life, maybe in their jobs, because the main thing about business ideas is that they are successful when they solve a problem. Customers don't necessarily buy a product because of the benefits, but because it solves a problem or a pain point. And a very good example for this is a very good old umbrella that I'm sure you have all used before. And I think it's quite self-explanatory that you don't buy an umbrella because you like the fact that it has a handle or that you can open and close it. You buy an umbrella because you don't want to get wet. So that brings us on to point 3, which are the solutions. So for the problem that we have, let's keep the umbrella example. The problem is people go outside when it rains and they don't want to get wet. What are the solutions to this problem? Umbrella is one of them, but we could also have a raincoat. So you see how to one problem, there is more than one solution. And you should think about all of the possible solutions. And in the end, you will choose one to be your number 4, so your big idea. All right, so let's look at how that would look like in a concrete example. We like to use this structure that is on screen now, because it makes sure that you don't miss any of the steps and that you cover all the 4 points. So an example is the customers that I thought about are customers of a grocery store buying their dinner on the way home from the office. So they just finished work, they leave work, they're on the way home, and they stop and buy some dinner. What problem do they face? Well, they normally have to wait a long time in the queue because the shops are very busy at the time of the day. Everyone finishes work at around 5, 6. Everyone wants to buy some food for dinner, so everyone goes to the shops at the same time. What solutions do we have? There's different ones. There could be a self-service checkout machine where we don't need to, well, we can put more machines for people to check out their own shopping. Or it could be a smart shopping basket that records all the items and charges their credit card directly. Or it could be a mobile application that can scan all the barcodes of the products in your shopping and then charges your card directly. So there's many different options, and I think for this problem, the best option that will be also my big idea is Quick Basket. An intelligent shopping basket that knows what you're shopping and automatically charges your card without the need to waste time standing in the queue at the grocery store. So here we go. You see, this is an idea and an example of how this idea was generated in this ideation framework. And I am now going to pass this on to you. And what we would like you to do is for the next session next Friday, please try to use this framework and come up with as many ideas as you want. So there is a little template here that you can use to go through your ideation process. And be creative, come up with as many as possible. And if you like, Chris is going to show you later our discussion board. So if you like, you can post your ideas on the discussion board to get other people's feedback. And just make sure that you've got some ideas to come for the next session, because we will need your ideas for the next session to then move on with the course.
And Sandra, it's also really important because if you post them on the discussion board, you'll be able to get some feedback from other people, not just from us, but because I think Sandra and I are going to have difficulty managing to give feedback to 150 people. But the real idea of the way that we envisage interaction on this course is that you support each other and that you make connections through this method on our discussion board. Shall I show that now, Sandra?
Yes, absolutely. In the meantime, I can see lots of questions asking about the slides, and the answer is yes, you will have access to these slides. We will add them onto the course material, so you can download them and have a look at them whenever you like. And again, there is also going to be the recording of this session that is free for you to download and have a look at whenever you like. Okay, so let's look at the discussion board.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So I just need to go in to see the student view so that you see it the way that it will to students. Just give me a second.
Also, this discussion board that we're going to look at now is going to be very useful for you if you have questions in between the sessions. You can just post them on the board and everyone in the course sees them. So feel free to post questions, answer other questions if you would like to. Again, it's a platform for you to share and give input to other people's questions or ideas as well.
Okay, so this is what the course should look like when you come into it. You'll have seen that there's an archive of announcements that I think you should be able to see over here on the left. So watch out for those, because we will be sending you reminders or suggestions about things you might want to do in between each of the Friday sessions. But down here, there's a discussion forum. And if I go down there, and it says here, tell us about how you are preparing for the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge. And if I click on there, I have to wait a moment. It's very simple. You see the question, you can see that there's a place where you can type your response to the question. And you can see as well that people have previously uploaded their ideation, or there's one that I posted up earlier where I gave a very quick summary of one idea, and I think that there are other replies as well that people have posted up. And sorry, let me look down here. So Dilfuza, who's one of our partners in Tashkent, put her idea up. And if you want to do this, you just need to go into type a response. You can add attachments, and of course, you can type a message into the chat box. And we'll put different discussion topics up there as we go forward. But for now, I think you could post your ideas for next week into this particular discussion topic. And if you want to do this yourself, you just hit the respond button and that will post your reply and everybody will be able to see it. So it'll be great to start seeing a lot of ideas posted up there.
Okay,
so I'm going to stop sharing that. So we need to reshare the screen now.
I'm going through, well, it's time for questions really. So I'm going through the chat to see if there's anything that we have not answered yet. There's a question regarding the recordings and where they can be accessed. We will probably post an announcement, Chris, with where the recordings are.
We'll add a section. We'll add a section with links to resources, and that will include the recordings of all of the previous sessions and the PowerPoint slides. because one of the things we're happy for people to do is to use the slides. You know, we're keen to support the institutions that are involved in Creative Spark. If you can make use of these slides to customize to support your own groups of students, it doesn't all have to be coming through us. You can collaborate with us, and we want to share the material.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure there's a...
Any other questions? Please pop it in the chat window now. It's about the end of the session, so we're about 45 minutes, but we can stay on a couple of extra minutes to answer any questions if you'd like.
Sandra,
Otherwise...
Yeah, Sandra, I was going to say, do you want to say something about next week's session? So the next session is?
Yes, next session is about focusing on the problem. So we have very shortly touched on it today, on how important it is to really understand the problem, and that it is a real problem and not just a perceived problem, because that's really, it's fundamental in having a successful business idea. So next week we will basically understand how we assess the problems and how we make sure that the problem is big enough, is a real problem, and is the best basically basis for us to build a successful business.
Okay, just a couple of questions coming in. Layli, thank you for your feedback. You said that this has been interesting for you, so I'm glad to hear that. Mika is asking what kinds of ideas are eligible for putting forward. And I think, Sandra, it might be worth just highlighting what the categories are for the competition at this point. Do you want to say something about them?
So in the context of the competition, we will have 3 categories for ideas. One is for social impact ideas, one is for creative ideas, and one is for digital technology. But for this course, and for you to start thinking about ideas, there's no limit to the topics that you can develop ideas in. So be creative, and think outside the box, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm just going to highlight that Sophia, you're asking, will all of these sessions on Fridays last 45 minutes? And the answer is yes, that's our plan. I mean, I think, sessions can last any amount of time, can't they? But we know that people are busy. We know that people have many other commitments. And I think, there's this idea, isn't there, in learning that you learn most in the first 5 or 10 minutes of a lecture. And as you go through, the longer it goes through, the less it's possible to retain information. So I think we're interested in, having debates and discussion forum outside of the lectures, and then we can come together as a group every Friday just for this 45 minutes. And I feel today's, had given us a chance to actually introduce the course, which took a bit of time. We won't have to do that again next week because we will have done that. So I think next week, 45 minutes will give us a real opportunity to delve into the detail of looking at how to consider a problem and how to define it and what kinds of problems might be appropriate to solve.
Just a quick answer to David, who said, what if we want to keep our idea in secret? You probably don't want to do that, David, because you want to test your idea. So if you keep your idea secret until the very end and then you launch it and nobody wants it, you're probably going to be within those 90% of the startups that fail. So don't worry about it. Secret ideas, are not going to go anywhere. You need your idea to be challenged and to be tested. And in the end, it's not about the idea that will make the success of a business, is about the team that works on it and how you implement it.
Mostly, Sandra, it's true to say that in the creative industries, it's not intellectual property that is at the heart of most of the startup ideas that come in this field. If you were involved in a science activity in which there was intellectual property involved, it's still possible to put your idea out into the public domain without revealing the thing about it that is the trade secret. So we can explain that a bit further as well in future sessions. But no, we would definitely encourage you to put your ideas forward. And actually, when you post into the discussion forum in time for next week, don't just limit it to one idea. You can post a whole host of ideas, and that's really part of the idea. The more ideas, the better at this stage.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up, Chris. We are very excited to see some of the ideas posted up on the discussion forum if you would like to share. And again, if you have questions, feel free to use that platform to share it. And thank you very much for taking the time and being on the session with us. And we're very excited to see you next Friday.
And very much the same message from me. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. It's nice to see some people who we've already met appearing in the session as well, and also lots of new people to meet too, and that's really nice. So thank you, and we'll see you again next week, and keep looking back at the website for more information before then. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.